Hey guys, I'm here to tell you to forget about everything you think you know about design. I'm just kidding, but you would actually be surprised by how much knowledge you actually already have. Much of what I feel like I've learned is language, so like labels or terms that mean something that I kind of already had an inkling about. Divergent thinking, for example, and not just because it's a trendy name with the book series and all, but because I realize that the creative process I have used for what seems like my whole life and what has set me apart from other people in my world has been this kind of different take. I had a history teacher when I was in high school tell me that, well, he could tell that I didn't really produce my own work with one of my papers that I wrote because he could read it and he realized that it was similar to what everyone else had written. And so he knew that I must not have really put forth as much effort as I had, assumed that I had. Um, but he called me out on it because he realized that I presented things a little differently from some of my other classmates. And so, even at an early enough age as being in high school, um, realizing that there was this different way of thinking and that I don't always think along the same lines as other people. I guess you could say I see the world through a different lens, and I like to pursue those kind of complex, erratic, rabbit holes of creative ideas. I was also in a recent job interview where I was asked what my favorite part of design was, and I immediately answered the ideation stage. I loved having to come up with 30 or more different sketches for any one project, and that I got to push the best of those ideas further without worrying about going too far or having to limit myself to any parameters. It's funny because I got the job, and now I'm a design and production assistant in quality assurance. My job is to make sure the final product reflects the organization appropriately, which is good, I guess, on the complete opposite end of that process, but I still love it. I've come to realize too that sometimes offering and receiving critique can be just as rewarding and forward thinking as the conceptualization. So, for future students, here's a clue. Really do your best to offer some thought provoking, stimulating, out of the box responses to your classmates' work. The more you can give and receive critique, the better the designer you will be. So, here's my process. Take the time to really evaluate the project. Don't just glance at it. Really study it for at least a minute or two, not just to see, but to understand what you're seeing. Then start thinking about things like what you like about it. Is it the color palette? Do you associate with the symbols in it? Then take another 1 to 2 minutes to study it again, this time asking yourself, what would you do different? I'm sure you can look at something like text and say, yeah, that large first letter looks nice, but how else could it stand out? Or if there's a layout of an editorial that looks pretty standardized, or uniform, but the piece is about expressionism and the layout should reflect that and not be so mundane. Whatever. So if you have to take the project you're looking at and try to carry it on to the next level, so what would you do with it? I firmly believe, and you can take this to any job, not just design, that if you're going to identify a problem, especially if there's any negative connotation, be ready to present a solution. It isn't fair to just sit back and say, I don't like it, unless you can defend it and offer a way to make it better. These are the kinds of things I thought about when offering critique and still do in my job. Sometimes I come up with good suggestions that have been applied, and other times, well, they don't use them. And that's okay. So don't be offended if they don't agree with you. Just know that you gave them another point of view. And if they're a good designer, they will take your constructive feedback into consideration. And the same goes for when you receive their feedback. Make sure that you take the time to hear them out to kind of understand the point of view that they're bringing to your attention, or really explore some of the suggestions that they give you because they might just be able to present it in a way that you hadn't thought of before. So if I take anything, my aha moments from this, the last few months, is really that design is so much more of a collaboration than just an individual process. And so really take those critiques to heart, really practice critiquing. And I think that it won't just make you a better designer, but it'll make the other designers around you better. Thank you and good luck. Hope you guys enjoy the video.